Welcome to another live edition of the Couch GM and Coug Fan live weekly show talking all things WSU athletics. First off, if you're not already subscribed, go check out cougfan.com. Make sure to subscribe to the premium membership for all things Washington State University. They've got the lowdown on all of the details that you need to know about. If you're listening to the audio only version of this podcast, make sure to check us out. We're going to be doing weekly live shows on YouTube, Twitter, and cross-platform. And make sure to give us a 5-star review if you are listening to the audio only platform. And if you or someone you know is thinking of buying, selling, or refinancing a property on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, or Arizona, I'm actually a mortgage broker when I'm not doing sports videos. So that's a way that you can help support myself. I'm trying to assist as many sports fans and athletes get into the home of their dreams. And Dylan, what do you do for your day job?
Yeah, so I'm in the solar industry. So folks, if you guys are looking to see what your energy bill will look like with solar going forward, lock in a rate, please give me a call, 661-269-3003. If you have any questions on how it works, essential, reach out to me.
And we got a jam-packed show today. We're going to get into Kyle Williams. He recently competed in the NFL Combine. We'll get into those details. After that, we're going to get into the WCC tournament for both basketball teams that will be starting up here shortly. We also have a few interviews that we will be playing. We've got 9 minutes with Esa Pole, a standout offensive lineman who is going to be entering the NFL draft this year, as well as a transfer safety from South Dakota, Tucker Large. He was an FCS All-American this last year. We're going to be playing 5 minutes from his podcast. And both of these episodes will be going live immediately following this live show. So make sure to check out the podcast with both Tucker Large. And then we also got Esa Pole. So a lot of stuff coming. After that, we'll get into some baseball talk. We'll also get into a little bonus. If you stick towards the end, we'll talk some Gardner Minshew news. There's also some Mountain West conference updates that Canzano recently came out with. So with that being said, Kyle Williams recently competed in the NFL Combine. Prior to the Senior Bowl, he was projected 3rd round, maybe after. Scouts have started to bump him up their board with that senior week. I'll play this clip right here. You could see why he started to climb.
Kyle Williams from Washington State down here on the right side.
Boy, is he good off the line of scrimmage.
Beat him twice.
Yeah. He is so good off the line of scrimmage.
That's impressive.
His footwork is terrific.
He's been the best in show in his release.
Those moves at the line, I mean, I'm almost falling out of my chair watching that. And then here's another clip of him talk. Yeah, go for it.
As a Seahawk fan, I mean, that's got to be someone that's you're circling late, right? 4th to 6th round.
Yeah, let's get into we'll get into the Seahawk talk in a second. After the Combine, but he's a sleeper on the list. And it's like, if we could, DK is going to be heading out. Tyler Lockett is obviously gone. We have JSN, who's legit, but if we can add in Kyle Williams, obviously we need some more guys. We only have JSN and Jake Bobo right now. But here's Kyle Williams talking about if he prioritizes or likes release or speed.
A release for you, or is it more about the speed after the release?
For me, it's a release. I like separation. It's like COVID. Like, get away from me 6 feet. As much distance as I could create.
It's like COVID. I love it. What do you enjoy running against more, man or zone?
Man.
Okay.
That's my bread and butter.
There you go. Name a wide receiver or two in the NFL who you model your game after.
Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell.
Why?
Dudes are not the biggest, but they definitely get open against all different types of corners. Tall, long, short, and fast. So it's just like they're really creative in space, and that's what I like to model my game after.
So Kyle is officially listed at the Combine at 5'11", 190. He's got 30 and an eighth inch arms. He's got 8 3/4 hands. He, in 2024, had 70 catches, 1,198 total yards, 14 touchdowns. He averaged 17.1 yards per catch. He was the 15th overall graded wide receiver at the Combine. His 6.2 score via NFL is slotted as basically will eventually be an average starter, which I think is heavily underrating what his true ability is.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a guy that's just slowly, sneakily rising up the draft boards right now. And, like we said, we'll keep going back, beating this dead horse to the Holiday Bowl, but he was fantastic. Obviously, you break the all-time receiving record with Des Bryant Louis Riddick had a few nice things to say about him too last week. So, it's nice to see national media starting to pick him up and what he's able to do on the football field. Because, in one-on-one matchups, like we said, he's averaging 25 yards per reception, 20 catches and 33 attempts. So, he's a big-time playmaker, and we saw it over the last 2 years at, up on the Palouse.
And here's his official 40 time.
Here's Kyle. Let's get it. Let's get it.
There we go.
Oh, so close.
We'll see.
Maybe the official. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, worthy of applause. For sure.
He gave you this head shake. He wants to be in the 4-3.
As you saw there, he went 4.42 his first attempt. He went 4.4 for his lowest in his official time. That is 11th out of the 50 wide receivers. Only 39 receivers actually ran it. So, and then his 1.55 10-yard split was 33rd out of 39. So it's not necessarily his initial breakaway speed, but it's the long-term speed and the down the field where he really picks up. And then he also had a 9'11" broad jump. He had a 36.5 vert, which was 17th out of the wide receivers. What are your thoughts from his combine? Did he boost his stock?
Yeah, I think we can honestly sit here and say Kyle's going to get drafted. I'm 90% sure. You really hope for Kyle in terms of just hearing his name, get called, Washington State University. I'm sure we'll, over the next week or two, kind of take a look at what options seem like the best for him in terms of landing spots in the league. Obviously, we kind of briefly said that Seahawk connection, but, over the last 5-6 years, there's been a fair amount of Cougs that have gotten a shot with the Seahawks, but that was under a different regime in terms of Pete Carroll. But obviously, Schneider's still the GM there. You've got Abraham Lucas on the O-line there. Aesop Winston, was fighting on the practice squad for a couple of years. So, hey, schools that are in your backyard, like Washington State, UW, Oregon, obviously, the Seattle Seahawks are probably going to have a little extra coverage in their area of home turf in the Pacific Northwest. So, I know a lot of Coug fans would be super stoked to see Kyle Williams, dressing up inside where the 12th man is.
I'll tell you what, we could use both Kyle Williams and Esa Pole. We need some help on the offensive line, and we could use a guy that's 6'7", 320 that allowed 0 sacks this last year. But here's one other NFL analyst that talks about Kyle Williams and his thoughts.
And then the last one, I'm going to go to Washington State with wide receiver Kyle Williams, who had 70 catches, nearly 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns a season ago. I just love the way he's able to run at his own pace as a route runner. He's never in a hurry, and he's just continued to check every single box, whether it's the Senior Bowl and then even at the Combine. I thought he was terrific in everything that he did. So Kyle Williams, he would be somebody that I would be banking. Absolutely. And then there was official news that the Chicago Bears actually officially met with Kyle Williams this last Friday. The Bears currently have obviously Caleb Williams at quarterback. They've got DJ Moore as their one. They've got Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. If they were to bring in Kyle Williams, that would be a stacked 1 through 4. So we'll see if there's fire where there is smoke in regards to Kyle Williams and the Bears this year. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Who's your team out there? If you're a Hawks fan, do you know who Kyle Williams is? Would you want him on your team? He's a guy that you definitely shouldn't be sleeping on.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at the Bears too. They're probably not bringing back Keenan Allen. You got a young guy in Rome Odunze that we know fairly well from his time at UW. And then DJ Moore, obviously just signed a 4 or 5 year extension last year. So Kyle can come in and maybe be the slot guy, with Rome and DJ Moore on the outside. But now you're going to start seeing more and more teams taking interviews, with players. I think we're 3-4 weeks away from the draft, 4 or 5 weeks away from the draft. So it's going to be interesting to see even news pop up with Esa going forward. And we'll get into his interview and he mentioned that he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, not getting invited to the NFL Combine. Obviously, participated in the East-West Shrine game. So, looking forward to seeing where these two land. And, even if Esa doesn't get drafted, you can expect him to be, undrafted free agent signing with a team shortly after the draft concludes.
And we'll get into Esa a little bit later in the show. We'll get into his interview as well. So now moving into the WCC tournaments for WCU basketball, starting off with WCU women's basketball. They are currently slotted at third in the overall conference. Gonzaga and Portland are the 1 and 2. They have byes. Washington State went 14-2 against everyone seated below them. They went 0-4 against Gonzaga and Portland. So what are your initial thoughts? And then also as far as the men's basketball as well.
Yeah, you kind of take a look at the way it's set up. The women's team will have one less game to get it done, to get the automatic bid, 3 total games. They come in at the 3 seed. The 6 seed is St. Mary's. So the way it's set up is the 10 and 11, are Pepperdine and San Diego. The winner of that plays the 7 seed, which is Pacific. Then the winner of that plays St. Mary's. And then the winner of that finally will play Washington State. So you can see how the West Coast Conference sets up their postseason tournament in a way to kind of save their top teams from seeing like an early loss in the quarterfinals, or even before the quarterfinals. So the men's side, they've got a little bit of a tougher road. The way their bracket's set up, they're the 6th seed. So LMU, the 7 seed, will take on the winner of Pacific and San Diego. My hope is somehow Pacific wins 2 games and matches up with WSU. We spoke with Lawan Watts. He said they're not exactly saying, hey, we want Pacific, but if they do get them, they're looking forward to trying getting that 3rd game, that rubber match, and not getting a gentleman's sweep by Pacific this season. So I think the main thing for WSU, obviously their final 2 games of the regular season, you have senior night against San Diego. They go up by as much as 30 points in that game. And then a second half collapse where you see WSU squeak out of there with a 5-point win. Then they take their, they take a travel trip down to Pepperdine, and they handle business in that game for the most part. I think that's probably their best overall game in the last probably 8 to 10, because there's been a lot of issues defensively. We've seen a lot of hero ball in the month of February in terms of not seeing the ball movement, and the offense that we've seen David Riley and company integrate, throughout the first couple months of the season. So, obviously there's probably not a lot of high hopes on the men's team making a big run in the West Coast Conference tournament, but it's set up. You can beat LMU, you take on San Francisco, a team that you split with this year, and then you'll have to take on Gonzaga in the semifinals. But you hope they can make a run, win 2 games and maybe get Coug Nation behind them for a big-time semifinal matchup against the Zags.
Yeah, looking at the tournament, it's starting today. The tournament runs March 6th through the 11th. The first games today are on the women's side. Number 10, Pepperdine, is taking on number 11, San Diego. On the men's side, it's number 10, Pacific, against number 11, San Diego. And Washington State, for the men's side, is going to be playing first on March 8th, which will be against the Game 3 winner. And then for the women's side, they will be playing their first game March 9th, which is going to be against the winner of Game 5 for the women's side. So make sure to stay locked into the WCC tournament. It's going to be a lot of action moving forward. And let's get into the interviews that we just had. So I had a couple great interviews with both Esa Pole and then also Tucker Large. So we're going to start off with Esa. And he was a standout lineman. He actually did not even play football in high school. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, one thing, we got to realize, we thought we were going to have some of these guys on live today, but crazy that guys that are looking to get drafted to the NFL have workout regiments and times in the morning where they're not able to, jump on with two idiots talking Cougar.
How can they
football.
not prioritize a random podcast?
So we'll see if we can get Brennan in here live. The hope was we'd have him at the end of the show. He is working right now in Arizona, prepping for the training camp season and whatnot with the Rams. So if we don't get him live, we'll pre-record an interview and we'll have him on next week.
And that's regarding Brennan Jackson, who is currently playing for the Rams. So we did have on Esa Pole yesterday, and then we also had on Tucker Large, as I mentioned earlier in the show. Those full episodes will be going live on the channel after this episode concludes. But let's get into the first 9 minutes with Esa Pole.
Special edition of Coug Fan TV brought to you by the Couch GM. Esa Pole joining us live. He's getting ready to prepare for the NFL draft that's coming right around the corner. You're in the East-West Shrine game. I guess let's start right there. What was that experience like for you? And kind of matching yourself up against your opponents and individuals that play near you.
I mean, it was a really crazy experience. I mean, for starters, I was put on the East team, so I'm teammates with all these guys that are from the East Coast. So I got a little taste of what it's like on the other side of the country, and just getting to know these guys. And it was a good experience. Just not only what we did on the field, obviously, but just the opportunities that they opened our eyes to off the field. They were big on our mentality, and what we can take mentally. They put us through like a strenuous schedule in terms of meetings and interviews and talking to a bunch of teams. So like I think I got so much out of that experience more than just the game. Like they call it the Shrine Bowl, talking about how the game went and practices. But I think the biggest upside of that event was just how much they put on us off the field. And yeah.
So without, going too much into detail on it, if there's things you can't say, but I mean, kind of explain, I guess, what that schedule is like to the common fan.
I mean, I don't think I woke up around 6 or so on the long days. Woke up around 6 or 7, getting ready for practice when we were starting practice, and I don't think I got back to my room till like 9 p.m. And just starting with practice, obviously you got to get there a little early so you can hit the bus. They offered breakfast before, but that was a short window, so you kind of wanted to get there as soon as breakfast was offered so you can get a good little breakfast in. Then the drive itself to the facility, North Texas University's facility, just to practice was already like a 30 to 40-minute drive. So that took some time. So obviously you got to keep your mind prepared for practice, and then you get there, you get pre-practice, you get your tape. Then you go through the whole practice, which is about an hour and a half long. Then, obviously cooling it down, taking that drive back, and then probably get like an hour or so, hour and a half just to relax. But sometimes you don't, because sometimes the team wants to talk to you, or Shrine Bowl guys want to set up an interview. They'll text you on their phone. Everyone has your number. So just keeping you on your toes, keeping you moving. Downtime was there, but wasn't always given, if that makes sense. And what else? More interviews. Then we also obviously had to go over the film for practice, so we met up with the coaches at a certain time. After that, then we're offered dinner, and then even more interviews, just talking to more teams, or if the Shrine Bowl themselves wanted to talk to you. And I think my story kind of being what it was, obviously not playing in high school, a lot of the guys really wanted to talk more into that. So my schedule was a lot kind of jam-packed on its own. And then obviously nighttime, that's when I finally hit the bed and it was lights out.
Going into one of those questions of what they might have asked you, why didn't you play football in high school? What was your story back then?
Oh, man. So basically, long story short, I was raised by my mom, who I call my mom, but wasn't my birth mom. And I was, in a way, kind of adopted. I was raised in a separate household compared to my siblings. I'm the middle child of 8. I'm number 5, but because of the name that I carry and what I was named, I was placed in a home where my cousin, who was actually my mom, who I call my mom, raised me since I was an infant. And all things are good. All ties are still there with my parents and everything. I call them every day. I'm still close to my siblings. It was just an agreement and an understanding that I had to be the man of the house at a different household. And in that household, my mom wasn't a big fan of football. Like, I try to tell people that I had hoop dreams, but there were times where I tried to sneak into some meetings of football and try to, I wanted to play football bad, but my mom found out and she gave me a rip and a tear in certain places. So, football was not the path that God had intended for me at the time. And once high school was over and I was finally able to wear some bigger pants, and I put my foot down and said, "Mom, I think I have more opportunities to, supply and provide for you." And obviously, we're seeing it, seeing how the story's unfolding, and I think it was a pretty good decision.
You didn't allow a sack in 498 pass blocking snaps, posted the second best pass block grade by a tackle in the country, 86.7. You had a fantastic season. And especially, I mean, how tough was it trying to block with Mr. Mateer running around town, trying to extend the play? That's got to put a bit of a strenuous task on the O-line at times.
Man, shout out to my boy John. But yeah, I mean, if there's anyone that could really top him, it was Cam. So if there was anyone that was used to blocking for someone that was always trying to extend the play, it was us. We knew what we had how our hands were, and like we just knew that the play was never really going to be a 3-second, 4-second time. Like I remember I got my first holding call of the season against New Mexico, and I believe it was New Mexico. The guy tried to shed outside, and obviously my hands, once I have my hands on you, I'm not letting go. So he sheds 1 inch that way. John's taking off, and I try to let go, and I got the holding call, and I was just pissed out of my mind. But I can't be mad because 99 times out of 100, John's gonna make a play. So I don't want to ever change what he had going on, and we knew that we just had to change for him.
All right, last question. It's a juicy one, but how did you feel about how things ended with Coach Dickert at Washington State?
I think it's kind of like the same way, like how I felt about certain players leaving and how players were present but not there. It's easy for a lot of people to say, how could you do this? How could you do this? But if you were given the same circumstances to the person next to you, do you believe that they would do the same thing or something different? And Coach Digger, man, I see him for the man that he is, and I always have respect for him because obviously, he recruited me, gave me this shot, and he's the reason why I'm even in the spot that I am to, not only provide for myself, not only provide for my family, but potentially provide for my future family, and I'll always owe Coach Dickert that. So, if you were trying to get something juicy out of me, I'm the wrong guy. You got to talk to somebody else because
That's
man,
fine.
yeah, Coach Dickert, man, like it's like I think Wazoo is in a big rebuild right now. I think with the whole you're a head coach of a team. Boom, everyone in your conference leaves. Boom, all of a sudden money's not looking the way it should in NIL. Boom, you're losing all these players because you can't give them the money that they deserve. And then boom, you're given this opportunity to do all these things you couldn't do at a different school. Like you can't tell me that like someone else would have made a different decision, And I'm not gonna go too deep into that, but when people sully his name, it's I'm a diehard Coug too. Obviously, it hurt me too. Like, but coming from a guy on the inside and knowing the struggles that, he was given a lot of adversity and, a lot of guys, would have, I think he did the best thing for him and his family, And, when you're a father, when you're a family man, when you're trying to uphold a culture and you just don't have the tools for it, why not take a shot at something that could give you a better spot and put you in better shoes? Yeah, I mean, all in all, I have nothing bad nor amazing to say about Coach Diggert, but one thing I will say is he will always have my respect. So, yeah.
Love it.
Love that. And that's to be expected. Esa, we appreciate you, jumping on with us. We're really looking forward to continue watching this journey up until April. Really looking forward to seeing that video of you with the family getting drafted. It's on the way, my man.
I'm praying for it every day, man.
Thank you. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Appreciate y'all.
Go Cougs.
Initial takeaways from that. I mean, he is an extremely level-headed guy. Like, we tried to get a little bit out of him or hear some insight into the, Jake Dicker leaving, but completely level-headed. It's like, this is what happened. The conference started deteriorating. Money starts going away. NIL, you can't pay the players. What do you expect him to do? And, in the moment, it looked awful with what happened and how it all happened and transpired. But it's reassuring to hear that, the players, they understand from the human level. It's not just the game. It's not just the emotional fan, what are some of your takeaways from this interview?
Yeah. This is a guy that got his shot from Coach Dickert. So there's going to be some loyalty there, and he's going to always respect Coach Dickert, for the things that he did. But I think at the end, his final little line where, hey, I don't really have anything great. I don't have anything bad to say. So I think that kind of paints the picture for, a team leader on that team last year and kind of what they went through over that last 3 or 4 week stretch. And now, with the Canzano news coming out on, hey, the money was granted to the athletic director. Nothing happened for 2 or 3 weeks. President Schultz kind of went rogue on Ann McCoy. So, there was just unfortunately issues top to bottom. It just wasn't Jake Dickert and, losing guys like, hey, I'm not going to have Mateer next year. I'm probably not going to have, some of these main guys. And he ends up taking that job at Wake Forest and comes in, kind of cleans up pretty well in terms of what he brings over to Wake Forest with him. Carlos Hernandez, Devin Kalani, just a few names that head out there. So, I think if we can get Kyle Williams on, in the next couple of weeks leading up to the draft, and we'll ask him that question, I think there might be a different response. If you can remember the Instagram comment from Kyle initially, I think it rhymed with a witch or something along those lines.
We'll get our sound bit from that one for sure.
But, this is also a guy too that, let's be real, NFL prognosticators, they might watch this video with Esa in it and what he says about, his previous head coach. So this is a guy that's got to understand, like, he's media savvy as well. He's not going to come on and stir something up, heading into the NFL draft, and not saying that he would either. I think Cougs, you just watch that, 4-minute soundbite and you can take what you want from it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, he played basketball in high school. He didn't even play football until he played junior college. He played junior college for 2 years, eventually transferred over to Washington State. His older brother, Tony, actually played defensive tackle at Washington State from 2011 to 14. In that interview, we get into, some of his time there, him visiting his brother in Pullman, a couple Mike Leach stories. And then, Esa comes in and he's a standout lineman this past year. And he's a guy that absolutely should be drafted. He wasn't invited to the combine. You look at his stats. So he was named to the Polynesian College Football Player of the Year watch list preseason, started all 13 games at left tackle, started 22 straight games in total. According to PFF College, did not allow a sack in 498 pass blocking snaps and posted the second best pass blocking grade by a tackle in the country with an 86.7. So, and that's 6'7", and he's up to 327 right now, getting ready for the NFL draft. That's an NFL lineman if I've seen one.
Yeah, and I think it goes into the other aspect too is you look at guys that, one guy in the NFL, offensive guard for the Philadelphia Eagles. If my girlfriend's watching, she's going to kill me because I cannot remember his name for the life of me. It's the New Zealand guy. He sings too, Connor. Gosh. Oh, Jordan Mailata. My goodness. All right. Jordan Mailata, I mean, he was a rugby player. He didn't even play football, around the same time frame as Esa, when he was playing basketball. And you take a look at that guy, same type of build, 6'7", 6'8", just a gigantor on the offensive line. So I think, especially when he said on, the East-West Shrine and taking interviews with certain NFL teams, that's something that's probably high on the totem list. Like, hey, how did this happen? Why didn't you play football? And here's some clips of Esa in the East-West Shrine game. And he was put on the East team too. So he was telling us that he was seeing how the East Coast boys play football. And he was also mentioning, hey, I saw a bunch of guys that I was competing with here, in Texas that got invites to the combine. One other little piece of advice he gave us too that I thought was interesting is some NFL guys asked him, hey, if there was one guy on your team that you could take with you, blah, 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 to your new NFL team, who would it be? And I guess he mentioned Kyle Williams a few times. So, hopefully these type of interviews help a guy like Kyle, if another team is looking at him. So, I thought it was a great week for Esa. It's unfortunate that he was one of the bigger snubs for the NFL Combine. You saw a few different draft pieces list him as a snub. So, going forward, we'll see how his pro day is this Friday. As we were interviewing Esa last night, mid-interview, we found out that the pro day was on Friday with a Coug Fan article. So that was a little bit of a miss for us in terms of just asking him, how you're going to be preparing for the pro day. But did you write down any notes on like what his vertical was, kind of what his what he's preparing for wise?
I didn't write down. We did ask him his stats, so make sure to watch the full interview. He kind of went through his combine stats, if you will. He said if he's over 20 reps on the bench press, I think he's at like 25 right now. Yeah. He's like, if he's above 20, he's in a good spot. So, and he did pack on some weight. He's listed right now at 6'7", 319 officially on Washington State's website, but he's up to close to 330 now. So
that's a big boy.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, you don't want that guy running at you. And then next up on the interviews is Tucker Large. So Tucker is a South Dakota native. He played at South Dakota State University under Jimmy Rogers for 4 years. He's now a redshirt senior heading into this year. Won national championships at the FCS level back-to-back years in 2022 and 23, and an FCS All-American this last year. So he's a big get. Here's the start of the interview with Tucker Large. Tucker, thank you for joining us on the podcast. Excited to learn more about yourself and your journey to the Palouse. Spring ball just got fired up a few days ago. Let's start right there. How has spring ball been in the short time that you guys have had it?
Yeah, no, it's been super fun. Finally, like just getting out there and like playing football again. It's been a while for a lot of us. Just winter workouts and stuff, getting through all that. But being out there with the guys, it's been super cool.
And how has your transition from South Dakota been, along with quite a few other guys?
Yeah, no, it's been a good transition. In the moment, it was like super fast because we had to get out here for school and everything. But overall, I would say it's been super smooth. Just definitely like comfortable like with the guys I'm coming out here with and like some of the coaches and stuff. So it's been good.
What was kind of like the main selling point from Coach Rogers for you? You only one more year left. Obviously, you have some opportunities to test out the transfer portal, but you felt Washington State was the right decision.
Yeah, I owe a lot to Rogers and like this coaching staff. I wouldn't be in the position I am without them. So I just felt like it was only right to just follow them and do what's best for myself at the end of the day.
What was his, pitch to you? Was there a lot to it?
No, he didn't really say much. He doesn't like to beg too many people. So it's either you're in or you're out. It's his philosophy. So I kind of just like, I respect what Rogers does. He's a super passionate coach and just gives his all and everything. So it was really just like, I felt like it was the only like correct option for myself. So there was no really like selling pitch, I guess.
And you're a native of South Dakota. You spent, multiple years at South Dakota State, and then you came over with some of the other guys. Can you walk us through kind of some of your journey? And if you can go through that redshirt freshman year, you played both linebacker and safety. And
yeah.
At that point in time, was Rogers the linebacker coach?
So he was the linebackers coach. That redshirt freshman year, there was some unfortunate injuries that had went down and some of the older guys. So I got a chance early in the season, kind of made the most of it. And then throughout the season, some of the safeties had came back and there was another injury in the linebacker room. So like I was kind of just like rotating back and forth from safety to linebacker. And I was just really doing everything I could to get on the field. I was a young gun. Like I was trying to like just prove to the coaches that I could really play. And so it was definitely weird going from safety to like Coach Rogers. I was definitely still intimidated by Rogers when I did move to linebacker. So it was like kind of an awkward thing when I went in there, but it was definitely a cool experience and like just learning experience for myself.
And that 22 season, as well as the 23 season, you guys end up winning the national championship. Walk us through both of those years and that journey.
Yeah, man, it was unreal. Still like a surreal feeling to me to win back to back. But that first year, kind of getting thrown in the mix and like really like believing in myself that I could play at this college level, really opened my eyes to what I could do. So like following that next season, a lot of the guys came back. We had honestly the same exact team that we had before. So just I had a lot more confidence going into that year and just try to really make the most of it. And I know I'm not going to get any of these years back. So just giving it my all every play, every game.
What's that say about the culture where, you guys win a national championship and obviously, a lot of guys are going to have opportunities to maybe jump up a level, and Coach Rogers and the staff were able to really retain pretty much all of what you guys had. I mean, what's that? Talk about just the culture that they've built.
We do a lot of things to like build our culture. Just the main thing is like our togetherness, I'd say. We do a lot of like small group sessions that we break out and branch out to like really get to know each other. I feel like just like understanding that why for the guy next to you is just like the biggest thing. So once you understand like his why, it's like I'm gonna play for him just as hard, like I feel like these small groups and like the things we've done has like really helped us build that culture. Then obviously coming to like Washington State, they had a good culture here too. So kind of just like meshing both of our cultures together and everything. I think it's been like really good for us, and it's been coming together really well.
Has it been a bit seamless so far with just some of the 14, 15 SDSU guys that have come in, and then obviously the guys that have been here already?
I mean, it was obviously a little weird just because like I knew every single kid on our team, like, and I was there for 4 years, so it was definitely like being weird. Like just I saw some familiar faces and then getting to know everyone else. It was definitely like a little weird, but I would say like every kid here has like welcomed us with open arms, and it's been like a very smooth transition for all of us SDSU guys.
How has this spring ball been so far? Has it been comparable to your prior years? And have you guys been able to help some of the fellow WSU guys that are new to this process?
Yeah, no, I think the thing that stood out to me right away was just the energy from like every single kid. Like I would say our energy has definitely been there. Obviously like we're messing up schematically and like doing some small things here and there, but like energy has jumped like through the roof to me, whether we're at a walkthrough, whether we're doing lifts, whether we're at practice. I feel like the energy is very contagious and we kind of just like feed off of each other. But yeah, it's been good.
So that is the start of our podcast with Tucker Large. The full episode, which is about 15 minutes, will be going live after this live stream is over. And again, make sure to check out CougFan.com, subscribe to their premium membership. They got an article specifically on Tucker Large. The safeties coach was talking about how he does a lot that you can't really coach, that he's just a standout player. The safeties coach was quoted saying, "You're going to see a very creative player, somebody that moves around. He's really good in man coverage. He's got a different feel for the game and zones. He can make plays just on his intuition and kind of just being a ball player out there. He does some things that I can't coach him up on. He just kind of does them. He's really exciting." And as we talked about in our interview with him, he was actually a punt returner at South Dakota State as well. He housed a few in his time doing that. It's pretty wild how dynamic some of these guys are, especially the ones that have transferred over. Angel Johnson, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, he was a kick returner for South Dakota, as well as one of their star running backs. You got Tucker Large, who's a safety and also a punt returner. So he's one of 4 safeties that have transferred from South Dakota. And he's a name that you definitely want to keep in mind this next season.
Yeah, I think the other aspect that, you're bringing up one of the 4 safeties, the other 2 seniors that come over with him, Cale Reeder and Matthew Durance. I mean, all of a sudden you go from a spot on your football team last season that was a key issue in terms of a lot of breakdowns, in the secondary. We saw, it was like WSU better score 40 today because if they don't, they might not get this W. So you're going to have more of some senior leadership there, especially in year 1 of, going to a new head coach. new schematics on both sides of the football, to be able to have 3 guys that are seniors that have been in this program, that understand where they need to be, also helping other guys on that defense line up correctly. I mean, how many times last year did we see the defense have to take a timeout or mid-play where they're just running all over the place and it doesn't seem like they know where they need to be? So I think you're going to see much better consistency on that end of pre-play dynamics of getting yourself in the right position. So looking forward to seeing what these guys can do. And then you have the other young gun safety whose name is missing me right now, but some serious safety help coming in with Jimmy Rogers.
There's Cale Reeder, Matt Durance, and Trey Ridley.
Trey Ridley, that's the young gun.
Yeah, so make sure to check out that full episode as well. That'll be going live after this show is up. And now kind of moving into some baseball talk. So baseball team is now up to 3-9 on the year. They started 0-8. So it went 3-1 this past weekend against Iowa. They check out the WSU baseball podcast, because I actually listened to that. They have a weekly podcast with head coach Nathan Choate, giving some insight into what they've gone through so far. They're just now getting back to Pullman for their first series, as there was ice storms, winter storms. You can imagine that the weather in Pullman, Washington in February, March is not ideal for college baseball. So they were actually gone for 20 days straight. They were staying in 7 different hotels throughout Texas, as well as, I believe, Oklahoma. And so they were supposed to come home until there was an ice storm at WSU, had to stay down there. And their first series against number 3 Arkansas. Arkansas was ranked 4th initially. They're now ranked number 3, one of the top teams in the country. They almost squeaked out that first win of the season, went 0-4, ended up going 0-8. As I mentioned, went 3-1 this past weekend against Iowa in Texas. Some stats I'll cover real quick before I get your thoughts. They got hit by a pitch 13 times over this last 4-game series. So they were averaging 3.25 a game, and head coach Cho was like, hey, I know it hurts, but you got to do what you got to do to get on base. And they didn't have the best offensive start to the year, and this kind of helped things get going. Over those 4 games, their team batting average per game was 314, 345, 351, and then 276. They ended up losing that final game, but won the other 3. And they had 14 walks compared to 32 strikeouts as a team. So taking those walks in the hit by pitch, get on by any means necessary. The struggle so far this year with Washington State baseball, as Choate also pointed out, is their pitching command. They had 27 walks given up over 4 games, which is averaging like close to 7 walks per game. They also had 29 strikeouts as a pitching staff compared to 27 walks. That cannot happen. And Choate was quoted saying, walks are too high. I'll be talking with the pitching coach after. And he also mentioned that guy's in the doghouse right now. So we'll see if they can turn things around.
The pitching coach is in the doghouse?
Yeah.
You mentioned that? Publicly. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there's some pressure.
There's a little bit of pressure right now. And, you take a look, 96 total innings pitched with Washington State baseball, 69 walks. Not nice. Not nice. But, a couple gems so far this season. Starting pitcher Griffin Smith, 3.60 ERA in 15 innings, 3 starts. I believe he's gone 5 in every start. 16 hits, 11 Ks, 6 walks. Opponent batting average at 291. But one guy that I've really been impressed with this year, funky arm delivery, a little bit of a crossfire sidearm mix, is Rylan Hayter. He's been fantastic. He's been really like the first guy out of the pen. I believe he came on in game 2 or game 3 in that Iowa series and pitched a couple big late innings for the Cougs. But yeah, he's got a 2.16 ERA, more importantly, a 1.20 whip. And that's solid for, college baseball. If you can have a 1.2 whip, anything under that, I think kind of maybe Coach Choate might have, a number listed that they're looking for, probably, as high as 1.5 per game in terms of, your whip. So That's walks plus hits in innings pitched for those folks that aren't aware. And then, the other aspect, there's not really much else. Luke Myers has been overall solid, 1.3 whip, 12 innings, and a ERA. Where's that bad boy? 3.65 ERA. So, taking a look at the hitting side of things, Max Hartman is fantastic. In the leadoff spot, he's really fun to watch. He's got 2 or 3 bunt hits this year, so he's a guy that's going to do it all. He's going to be able to slug. He's going to be able to get on base, make things happen in terms of the running game. He's at a 381 average and a 958 OPS to start the year. 16 hits, 2 doubles, 1 homer. And then another guy, Ryan Sconesby. I might be butchering that last name, but he's another guy, a new guy that came in here. He's got 5 extra base hits, 4 doubles, 1 homer, and hitting 316. So a guy you got to start getting going is Logan Johnstone. Had the solo home run in the first game of the series against Arkansas to open up the year, and has been a little bit kind of cool since that. He's just hitting 229, 3 doubles, and the homer. So like we said at the beginning of the year, Logan Johnstone, Max Hartman, these are the 2 guys that you're going to need to see doing things offensively. And, whether it's Max setting the table and Logan, kind of in the middle of the order handling things. So, let's go back to a few of these games. Let's say they hold that 2-1 lead, bottom of the 10th, first game of the year against Arkansas, and you leave with one of those 4 games. UCLA, 5-run lead going into the 6th or 7th inning, blow that game. One of the Corpus Christi games, blown late. So you're feeling much different about this team. If, let's say, 2 or 3 of those go their way, all of a sudden they're 5 and 7, 6 and 6. Yeah. And you're feeling much differently about 12 games on the road to start the season away from school. I mean, that's tough as a student athlete. You're not going to class. You're trying to catch up online. So not an easy thing, but like we said, you can't play in Pullman in late February and early March at times, as we know as well. So we'll see how things look. Seattle U usually has a pretty solid program. And this is a series you got to take 2 out of 3 and try to sweep and start feeling better about yourself, because that Oregon State series is coming around the corner. And that's scary to think about.
Yeah, these next 2 series are ones that you're going to want to tune into. Starting tomorrow, March 7th through the 9th, is versus Seattle U. So it will be at Bailey Brayton. And then March 11th and 12th, which is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday, it's going to be at Oregon State. They're currently ranked 8th in the country. As we all know, Oregon State is a baseball university. So we'll see how those 2 series go. Make sure to tune in. Hopefully we can get some of these games on TV at some point. And make sure to check out the baseball team as we go along. And as you mentioned, Max Hartman, 380. Yeah, go for it.
Brennan Jackson can join live. Send that link on over to him right now, because he's jumping on.
Okay. And as I do that, Max Hartman, 381 batting average, 958 OPS. He's also 4 for 4 and stolen base attempts. So I'll send this invite to Brennan Jackson. We'll get him on live.
Finish out the show on a high note. We were trying to save this one for next week, but we love you guys. We got 385 watching right now. Let's get them on the board.
And as I do that, also let's talk a little bit about Gardner Minshew. You might have seen the news that the Raiders are going to be releasing Minshew. They signed him this past offseason to a 2-year, $25 million deal. 15 mil was guaranteed, so he's walking away with 15. Take away taxes, you call it $7 million. He's in a good spot there. He was benched after 5 starts with the Raiders. He was initially drafted in the 6th round by Jacksonville back in 2019. He then went on to, was it the Eagles next, and then the Colts, and then the Raiders?
Went to the Eagles. Had a decent couple of years in Philly. And then nearly gets the Colts to the playoffs. Raiders kind of decide to take the same swing in terms of bringing a veteran guy in. And trying to work with the defense they had over there. But the Raiders are a mess. I mean, they've always been a mess. We'll see what Pete Carroll can do with them. But
Tom Brady taking over.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly.
You got everybody over there that you want to see. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the landing spot is for Gardner. There's definitely going to be a solid landing spot. He's going to get another payday for being a backup. I mean, you look at a guy like Chase Daniel made over $80 million in his career just being a backup quarterback. So we need Gardner to stick around the NFL as much as possible, and then we'll start kicking up the Cougar Collective fund for him. All right.
Yeah, right. And yeah, as I mentioned, he was benched after 5 starts this year. The Raiders were 2-7 under him this past year. I saw one comment on a Facebook post. Hey, maybe it's not this year, maybe it's not next year, but what if we see Gardner Minshew coming back on the Palouse and being a quarterback coach at some point?
Hey, you never know. This is a guy that loves the Palouse. What if 20 years from now, all of a sudden, Gardner Minshew is just the head coach at Washington State University? Fire me up. I'd be all aboard for that. As we sit here and hope Brennan joins us live, it's always tough messaging on Instagram. So we'll see if we can pull him in here live.
Shout out that email to him. So Brennan Jackson, he was a let me pull it up here. 5th round draft pick. 5th round draft pick, the 2024 draft, pick 154 overall by the Los Angeles Rams. Right now he's training for the offseason, as you might imagine. So 24 years old, 6'4", 263, outside linebacker is what he's currently listed as for the Rams. He had 2 solo tackles this past season. I'm curious to hear his initial experience just in NFL when he walked out onto the NFL field for the first time.
Yeah, you got another Coug as well on the Rams, Cam Lampkin. You shared a photo of the Palouse products in the NFL, and we'll talk to him about that as well. The amount of guys that we see playing ball and actually having significant roles, like Frankie Louvu, Diane Hanley over at with the Chargers. You got Jalen Watson, who wins 2 Super Bowls in his first 2 seasons and nearly 3. Which would have been insane. Jaden Hicks gets drafted by the Chiefs as well. So you've got Jaden Hicks and Jalen Watson in the backfield there, and 2 young guys that are going to be big time fixtures in that secondary going forward for the Chiefs. They have some issues to figure out. We all watched that Super Bowl. Their offensive line was pretty horrible. The Eagles pretty much got whatever they wanted, rushing 4 in that game. Other guys, you got Jalen Thompson, who's big time with the Cardinals. Equale, still doing his thing with the Patriots. Andre Dillard now with the Packers. Abraham Lucas, and in my opinion, one of maybe the greatest offensive tackle in Washington State history. Yeah, Chow Smith Wade over with the Panthers. And then River Craycraft, who just continues to
He's still at it.
Still at it with the Dolphins, continues to get NFL checks, which is big time, so looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll get Brennan in here. We'll give it another couple minutes, and if not, we'll have him on next week.
Here we go. We're going to bring Brennan in live here.
Brennan, what's going on, my man?
Doing good. How about you?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us live. We really appreciate it. Connor and I were laughing. We were trying to schedule you and Esa, and it's like, wow, these guys have big time schedules going on right now. One's trying to get ready for this second NFL season, and another's trying to get ready to get drafted. I guess what's kind of maybe your take on pre-draft stuff, East-West Shrine Game. Did you participate in the Senior Bowl or the East-West Shrine Game your final year? I forgot.
Yeah, I went to the Senior Bowl, the same one that Kyle Williams went to. It was a great experience. Got to meet with a bunch of NFL coaches and a lot of scouts there. So it was invaluable experience. But what the guys are going through, it's a tough process. It's a long, grueling process. You're constantly, hearing things from your agent to from what you're seeing on Twitter and everything like that. So it can get pretty hectic, but I know those guys are prepared for it and they're going to do a great job.
Walk us through your process last year. Sorry.
Walk us through your process last year leading up to the draft. And did you think you were going to get drafted by the Rams? Did you think you were going to be a 5th rounder? Walk us through some of that.
Yeah, I mean, it started out once we finished our game against, Washington in the Apple Cup. Immediately you're finding out where you're going to go train at. So you're training for, a month, and then you have the All-Star games. If you're lucky enough to go to one of those, you go play in one of those games. So I was fortunate enough to go play the Senior Bowl. So I went there, and then come back, you train for the combine, and, you have that whole 5-second interview. You do that, and you're meeting with, staffs, with scouts, with coaches. You're kind of getting an understanding of where you fit in each scheme, where they're looking at you on their boards. And again, it's all a toss-up for draft day. You have no idea. I had no idea that I was going to be drafted by the Los Angeles Rams. Thankful that I was. But it really is just projections at that point. You see things where, I could be as high as a 3rd round or 2. Hey, you're not going to get drafted. So, there's a wide variety of what you hear, but you just got to, stay focused, do what you can do, and control the controllables, and everything will work out when it's supposed to.
Explain to us what your off-season program's like right now. I think you're out in Arizona training. What's going on with you day to day with getting prepared for another NFL season?
Yeah, so every day I'm over at Exos here in Phoenix. Love the staff over there. It's where I did my combine prep at, so really trust the individuals in that building. I'm here training my buddy Ray, who plays for the Buffalo Bills. We have a place together out here. And yeah, it's just every day working on your craft, trying to just stay in the, an athletic, mindset, and not, taking too much time off, because obviously the season ends and you think, oh, I have all this time off, but really OTAs is right around the corner. So you got to kind of keep doing the little things, and then really just eating right, watching film as you can, but also kind of disconnecting away from football for a little bit. It's important because it's just a long season. You go from a college season, 12 games, and then all of a sudden you play 21 games in the NFL, and now it's your first break. It's easy to just stay with it, but you got to kind of take some time off. So I'm kind of just getting in that groove, find a happy balance. But I'm really enjoying the off season, but really ready to get back to it once April hits.
Is there something in specific that the Rams have communicated with you? Hey, let's work on this throughout the offseason, or is it just kind of staying in shape, getting ready for getting back to it?
Yeah, it's mostly just staying in shape to get back to it. You don't want to go back to OTAs not in shape and kind of away from football for too long. So it's kind of just, keeping the things that you were good at the end of the season, keep, building on those. And anything that was a weakness, just kind of building on that and trying to have it be a strength for the next season.
You're going through your first NFL offseason. We understand how crazy off seasons can be. Do you kind of shut yourself out of like, okay, Matthew Stafford, rumor mill, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? There's Aaron Rodgers possibilities. I mean, is that just like, hey, you're going to let the front office work and just you're going to do your thing? Or is it tough not to see, hey, man, Cooper Kupp, he might be out. Matthew Stafford, finally, they finally come to an agreement on their deal. What's that like?
Honestly, a lot of that stuff I just don't even pay attention to, pay no mind. If it's above my pay grade. So, I have no control over what happens. So a lot of times I'll usually stay off Twitter, like during the off season a lot. I'll go on Instagram because obviously like my fiance will post stuff. So I'll like that. But in terms of football things, I just try and disconnect from it as much as I can because it is a business. So a lot of things are going to happen that are out of your control, but yeah, it just staying out of it and just working on myself and working on what I can control. That's all you can really do in the off season.
Going from the Pac-12 to the NFL, what were some of the things that you expected that you didn't expect being in the NFL? What was your, hey, I'm here type moment?
Yeah. They always tell you the NFL is just every best player on every best team. And it's true. Everybody you go against was the best player at their college, their area, their city. So every day you got to bring it. Going from the Pac-12, I think what kind of prepared me was just facing those high-powered offenses, people who are going to put up points quickly. You go to the NFL and then there's athletes all over the field. So seeing that kind of a little bit sprinkled in the Pac-12 and all the quarterbacks we ended up facing that were in the Pac-12, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, them being rookies this year, you kind of get to see a little bit of it. But in terms of welcome to the NFL moment, I think it's definitely the first time you get into a live game or live rep scenario and you realize the guy you're going against, you may have watched growing up, right? For me, like my first lineman I went against was Colton Miller, and I had watched him, when I was in college and high school. So it's like going doing that and then eventually playing against them, it's a very surreal moment. But once you kind of settle in and realize it's just football, 11 on 11, it's just the same game we grew up playing.
Any jersey swaps?
What's it like? Yeah.
Jersey swaps? Right? Yeah. There's been a few.
With former Cougs or?
Yeah. Kind of a mix. I mean, I do like teammates that I'm with now, and then there's been guys that, I trained with or, former Cougs and whatnot. But yeah, jersey swaps happen all the time.
What's it like seeing the amount of Palouse products that are in the NFL? I mean, Frankie Louvu, Dayan Henley, Gardner, Jalen Watson, and Jaden Hicks. I mean, Jalen Watson had 2 Super Bowl rings in 2 seasons, almost 3. You've got Lampkin on your side of things too with the Rams. River Craycraft, the ageless wonder, continues to find a way onto a 53-man roster. You love to see it. And obviously, Jalen Thompson, Abraham Lucas, Andre Dillard. I mean, what's that say about what WSU has been able to do over the last decade in terms of having a great program, making bowl games, but also sending guys to the next level?
Yeah, I think it just kind of shows what we can produce on the Palouse. I mean, those guys you mentioned, none of them were 5 stars coming out of high school or 4 stars. These are all guys that came there with a dream to make it to the NFL, and we've been able to really, hone guys' skills and bring them to the league. So I think it's a testament to what Washington State can do and the kind of players that we're able to find and produce year after year.
One thing I wanted to ask too is you and Ron Stone have a special place in a lot of Cougs' hearts, and we see the changing environment of college football. And yes, like we love to see it. Players need to capitalize on their image and likeness. And we understand that not everybody's going to be able to get to the next level. You're trying to produce for, your family, this and that. How tough was it going through that last off season, deciding, hey, am I going to stick it out? Or like, how many teams reached out to you? Did that happen mid-season where you're like, gosh, you're trying to focus on the task at hand? How tough was that last off season in college for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really tough because you're kind of juggling, do I go and play in the NFL? There's obviously rumblings from, what you could make if you transfer. So I understand how complex it is being an athlete nowadays in this landscape of college football. But I guess for me, the biggest thing I kind of thought about was, again, and I'm different. There's a lot of different reasons for people to leave or stay. But for me, I think it just came down to the commitment I made to Washington State when I was a freshman. Like I told my family that's where I was going to go. A lot of people don't know this. My mom has a Washington State tattoo like on her wrist. So I'm like, that'd be kind of awkward to not still be here. But no, I think honestly, if it wasn't going to the NFL after my junior year, it was 100% going to be Washington State again, because it's just how much I'd given to the program and how much they've given to me, all the coaches that I've had the blessing to work with, the amazing community and fans that I've been able to get in touch with and be close with to this day. I just knew that there was no way to replicate that in a different program in a year. Obviously, maybe it would have helped with financial, in some regard, or maybe it would have raised my draft stock. But at the end of the day, like, you go to college one time, you get to be an alumni of really one school, I believe. Even if you graduate from 2, you're an alumni of one. And for me, I knew Washington State was the place I was going to be an alumni of. And, that's kind of how I made my decision. And again, there's a plethora of reasons for people to leave, and I understand that full-heartedly. And that's why I never kind of have any ill will or feel bad for guys that, do end up transferring. But I also know the commitment that your word has. And if you make it to a community like Washington State and you stick to it, they're going to love you forever, regardless of what you do after football.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of Cougs felt like your mom was the team mom. Like,
yeah,
she was
really
fantastic. She was like the team mom for everyone. I mean, what's it been like to be in SoCal with your full-time job, near your family, your mom? What's that been like for you, just being so close?
I mean, it's been fantastic. I mean, my mom never really missed a game in college either way, but being able to see my whole family at games now has been incredible. And they don't miss any game, even if it's, across the country. They'll go to every single one and support me. But yeah, just like in college, just my mom, kind of the impact she made on the community was amazing, because I know she just wants to be involved. And yeah, I mean, it's a blessing to be back home.
Duke Domino with a comment. Wisconsin sure remembers Brennan Jackson. Go Cougs.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
Last thing, you mentioned your fiance. Any some life news for the Cougs? What's going on with you and wedding around the corner? What's going on there for you, Brennan?
Yeah. A wedding around the corner. And then we have a dog now, so that's taking up a lot of our time. Our dog's name is Honey, so she's like our little daughter. It's great. But yeah, I mean, we're hoping to make she's a mix of like Australian Shepherd with German Shepherd and Husky. So she's a bunch of stuff. She's super active. We're trying to get the whole family up to Washington, hopefully this year.
Beautiful. Well, Brennan, we appreciate you taking 15 minutes out of your busy day. We're looking forward to seeing how this offseason goes for you. And year number 2 in the NFL. That's not a lot of people can say that. So congratulations and keep kicking ass.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And as always, go Cougs.
Yeah, thanks for your time. Go Cougs. Sweet.
Oh, really quit with the cut there, man. That's Brennan Jackson, Connor. Woo!
I bet.
See ya.
No, yeah, that was great. Love to hear this stuff. Let me. So yeah, nice work on getting him on. Cool to hear some insight from an NFL current. Hopefully, we can get some more guys on, like you mentioned, get Kyle Williams on in the near future. Hear him talk through. Yeah, Gardner Minshew. His calendar just freed up, so we could potentially get him on. Last thing I want to cover a little bit. I don't know if you saw the article from John Canzano on the Mountain West, but there's apparently the Mountain West 5, as we call like the treasonous 10 that left the Pac-12, the 10 schools, they're now being referred to as the Mountain West 5 that are currently leaving the Mountain West, coming to the Pac-12. Apparently, like they're kind of, from what he stated, people inside the Mountain West are stating that they're bailing, but are still clinging onto the board seats. And that a Mountain West board member stated, "We feel like we're in a good place as a conference. We'd be stronger together." So like the people that are not currently coming to the Pac-12 that are in the Mountain West are like, "Hey, let's just all do a big merger. We'd all be better together." So they're trying to kind of keep it together if they can. Have you heard any other insight on that stuff?
I haven't, but I mean, you have New Mexico, Wyoming, Nevada, UNLV, all these schools trying to stick with it. But when it comes down to revenue, the amount of money that schools are putting into their programs, there's just a difference between the Mountain West 5 and the others. I mean, it's a significant difference, and that's why Oregon State and Washington State decided to stick it out, sue the Traitorous 10. Keep hold of the Pac-12. You've got 7 teams. I don't, maybe if they can't figure out Memphis, Tulane, and these other schools, well, I don't want to see it happen, but I guess the backup plan is Texas State. You just get your 8. You figure out what's going to happen with the ACC, because the new ACC news is essentially schools like Florida State, North Carolina, Miami were suing over the exit fee, that it was going to be anywhere from $150 to $200 million. Now the ACC has decided every year until 2030, the exit fee goes down. I think it's going to be anywhere near $75 million in 2030. So it's almost, the ACC is kind of waving the white flag where, hey, we'll take being a viable football conference for the next 5 years and then figure out how the dominoes go. You might maybe expect to see something similarly as the Mountain West Conference, where, maybe a school like Florida State, North Carolina, Miami, the breadwinners of the conference, get a different payout structure. But now you're looking at Cal and Stanford, who don't even get a full share, I believe, until year 7 or year 8. So that's well past 2030. The way the money financials shake out, that $255 million that was split in terms of the war chest with the Pac-12 with Oregon State and Washington State, if you do it yearly, we're getting more money than Cal and Stanford are, with 1/4 of a share over the next 4 or 5 years. So we'll see. If we're able to retain any schools after 2030, if any schools leave. But you kind of seen on Twitter that, like, Memphis, Tulane people are like, well, maybe now we wait for the ACC to backfill instead of, maybe joining up with the Pac-12. So a lot to be played out over this month. There's been a lot of tentative deadlines for media rights deal around March Madness. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more clarity going into this 2020-25 year.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we should hear clarity this month as the San Diego State University athletic director alluded to that the media rights deal should be coming at some point this month, and then the expansion soon after. So be on the lookout for that information. Duke also commented saying future Cougar coach Minshew at offensive coordinator, Brennan at defensive coordinator, Bledsoe at head coach. Any type of combination like this, I'd be up for. But
Absolutely.
we got Jimmy Rogers right now, so Bledsoe, maybe you could be the quarterback coach, or Minshew. They could figure something out there. But that'll do it for this show. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to the guests that came on the podcast, and thank you to Brennan again for jumping on. Let us know if you have any specific individuals that you like us to have on the podcast in the near future. Make sure to like and subscribe, turn on notifications to never miss a show, and we'll see you next week.